Hello, everybody, and welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm DJ Kubarulis. I'm holding down the fort for Monica Moore. Don't worry, you'll get rid of me after this week, and you'll have your Monica back. First of all, before we get started and get to Phil Murphy of digitalsports.com and Paul Frummel of the Fairfax County Times, who are joining me here in studio tonight, let's thank the folks that make this show possible. Of course, we're talking about our awesome underwriters at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. FatBoyPhotos.com, the supplier of all of FairfaxSportsNetworks.com's awesome shots. If you see anything on your screen tonight, great photos, you know the Fat Boy is shooting them. FatBoyPhotos.com. Special thanks to our teammates at Pressbox Video, www.pressboxvideo.com. Highlights and more there. You can also find us on the web. Great shot of Monica there. I know you miss her. And FSN, we're on the web as well with video highlights and more at FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. Go and type that into your Facebook, and we'll pop up, and I guarantee you we'll be your friend. Contact us with stories, more tips and news, comments, and suggestions at news@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Speaking of news tips, and more, this week we've got a little bit of news to get to before we get to all the highlights, newsreel, and action from football this week. But speaking of football, a big commitment from South County out of the Lorton area. Andre Simmons, who suffered a difficult loss with his team on Friday night, had a good pick-me-up on Friday, after a Thursday night loss. His team was all there, gathered around him as he made a selection for college. Now, Simmons is a speedy defensive back. You can read all about him at digitalsports.com, Fairfax County Times, and WashingtonPost.com, Fairfax Sports Network. Everybody's covered the guy because he's one of the best in the area. Now, Andre Simmons came into the season as one of Coach Pete Bendorf's prized recruits. And Simmons, who had a great game on Thursday, committed to Vanderbilt the next day in front of friends, family, coaches, teammates, and more. He selected from a list of suitors, amongst them Maryland, Rutgers, and a bunch of big colleges to boot. Now, also, Woodson has had some good news on the golf front. The Cavaliers finished the Patriot District schedule with a win over West Springfield to improve to 6-1. Alex Jabali and Brett Porter, Neil Cormier, those guys all shot under 40 to make that happen. Some more golf news. This is probably more golf news than you'll ever get on the Fairfax Sports Report, but you know what? A big happening in the Northern Region this year as we go into the Northern Region Tournament. Some big news out of the Concord District, where Centerville and Westfield had some controversy going into this week. They had to replay a match after there were some accusations from both teams kind of saying that players violated the golf rules, which frankly I do every Sunday when I play. But either way, it's high school golf. You gotta play by the rules, and some players supposedly did not do that. On Monday, however, the district principals overturned the athletic director's decision and said Centerville, which was undefeated in match play this season, will get an automatic berth to the regional tournament, regardless of the outcome of the district tournament. So your golf news there. Speaking of news, let's jump into our first segment of football news, which we know is why most of you are tuning in to see highlights, news, and more. And of course, you're tuning in to see the top 10. We are going to tease you throughout the show as we take our Week 3 top 10 and talk about all these teams and then morph it into our newest top 10, which we will tease you along the way. And maybe you'll be able to kind of catch some hints as to who's who and who is moving up and down. But as of last week, Stonebridge and Oakton were on top of the Northern Region top 10. And those two teams, of course, state champions in the last 5 years, both Division 5 and 6 powers respectively, were on the top. Oakton suffered an enormous upset, perhaps the signature upset, and a merry-go-round of upsets to start this year, really making it a fun year. And we're going to talk about that with the guys in just a moment. You see your top 10, Westfield, Woodson, Lake Braddock, South County, Herndon, West Springfield, West Potomac, and rounding out the top 10, I have a feeling that after this week, Robinson will be moving up, but you will have to stay tuned to see just who moves where as we drudge along through this Fairfax Sports Report. Let's jump right into the Robinson-Marshall game, kind of a homecoming for Coach Mark Bendorf, going back to his alma mater, and he did not take it easy on his old squad. The Robinson Rams bang with 50 points over Marshall. Connor Riley, really a popular name amongst Northern Region players, 111 rush yards and 2 touchdowns. So there's your hoss on the night. Jared Velazquez, 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. And Mike Lepresti, not to be confused with the famous columnist, 97 pass yards and 2 touchdowns. So we'll just guess that he's a quarterback. Guys, you kind of look at Robinson's balance on offense, and of course the shutout over Marshall. Okay, Robinson is a power, one of the Concord powers that has won a state championship within the last 10 years. Marshall, not so lucky. What do you guys think this says about the Robinson Rams?
Hey guys, Paul Frummel of the Fairfax County Times, alongside of our own Mel Kiper, Phil Murphy from digitalsports.com. Phil, BJ's question, what does this say for Robinson?
Well, Paul, first, I don't have the hair Mel Kiper does, but I do appreciate the compliment. It says what we knew about Robinson. Very balanced team. They have 3 legitimate threat at running backs, not only Riley and Velasquez, as we showed on screen, but KB Muscatanwe, one of the hardest names to pronounce in the region. But he's a viable threat as well, and the Presti out wide. We have some highlights for this game that we'll get to momentarily, but 50 points on the board. They had 8 scoring plays, scored by 7 different players, so a ton of balance from this team. It's just pretty much what we knew about this squad. And we go now to the highlights. Pick it up. In the first quarter, Robinson just had a touchdown called back for a hold. You can't prevent this, Paul. The inevitable Connor Riley 26-yard touchdown run. Fast forward now to the second quarter. Another touchdown just called back, but here's Lepresti rolling out, buying time, and his arms running checks that pass can cash. Finds Matt Zanolato in the back of the end zone. And the defense getting it done as well. 14-0 here. Carl Halauer gets the hat trick, the sack, the fumble force, the fumble recovery, and the touchdown. 23-0 now the score. 30-0 in the third quarter. And Donovan Taylor, there's no I in team, but there is an I in Donovan Taylor, juggles it to himself. 39-yard touchdown reception, 43-0, and putting the icing on the cake, Alex Lapian, 67-yard touchdown run. Robinson runs away with it, 50-0. Paul, very impressive. You've seen the highlights for the first time. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm more impressed with Robinson's defense. You saw that Marshall, they lost their coach last year. Maybe having a down year, but they were held to 3 first downs in this game. I mean, that's impressive by Robinson's defense. You saw the fumble recovery for a touchdown. So I'm impressed with what they're doing on defense in that tough Concord district.
Absolutely, and they had Marshall under duress for the entire game. Put them under a lot of pressure, and it says that Robinson 3-0, right at the top of the Concord district. Remember, this team finished very strong last year, and Coach Bendorf told me after the season was over with that he was curious what would have happened if Robinson would have made the playoffs. They missed it by a hair last year, went 5-5. They're off to 3-0 start, one of the best teams in the Concord district.
All right, that's a look at our number 10 team last week, the Robinson Rams. BJ mentioned they'll probably be moving up a little bit in this week's poll. But going on next, Chantilly at West Potomac. BJ is going to talk all about it.
All right, so West Potomac kind of trying to find their way through the Patriot District against a tough Chantilly team out of the Concord District. There's been a lot of talk this year about which conference is the power conference. Well, I think this speaks volumes a little bit about some of the differences between coaching, players, personnel, schemes, and more when a Chantilly squad that's supposed to be having a rebuilding year comes in and puts up 35 points against a West Potomac team that we had ranked 9th. Still looking for the I in Donovan Taylor, Phil. I'll kick this back to you guys and ask you, just what does this say about a Chantilly team that's supposed to be rebuilding, and what does it say about a West Potomac team that was really supposed to be having a banner year?
He spells it with an I. He spells it Donovin.
I think I'm going to join the Chantilly question there. You see teams like Westfield, you see teams like Chantilly starting out slow, rebuilding. As the season progresses, they're going to keep on getting better. What is this, week 3, their third game, they get a little bit better from week 2, and they're going to continue that up to the season. We're going to see like teams like Chantilly, teams like Westfield that are usually in the hunt for a district title. They're going to be in there again because their kids are going to have experience. But for West Potomac, Phil, what does this mean?
Well, Colin Mathewson left the game with an injury, but Nick Dimitrievich was very reliable coming back in. I think this is kind of where West Potomac's going to fall. They came out, had a very impressive win over Mount Vernon, but Mount Vernon is now 0-3. We know that. As we look at the highlights now, Mike Ferris, 20 carries, $114 on the night, and this 23-yard touchdown run in the first quarter put him up 7-0. Kevin Rudiford would add a touchdown here, 1 yard. He left the game with a somewhat serious leg injury. We wish him the best. 14-0 to Chantilly after one. And just showing their balance, Chris Martin, one of their best athletes in the second quarter, scored 21-0 at this point. Ferris actually scored another touchdown. Here's Chris Martin on an end around, goes 14 yards to the crib, 28-0 at recess. And then in the fourth quarter, putting it away, West Potomac backed up. Punter couldn't really get much leg on this, only kicked it to the 31-yard line, and Martin gets it with a head of steam untouched for the 31-yard punt return for a score. Chantilly runs away with it 35-7. Now, something I want to talk about, Paul, we saw 2 weeks ago Chantilly lost the game to South County at the end of it with 8 seconds left, gave up a touchdown. I think that might have been the best thing that could have happened to this team. Now they were kind of under the radar, allowed them to get off to a 2-1 start and really get some momentum going as their Concord district schedule gets ever closer.
You lose that early game, people kind of start already write you off, and now they're coming up, as you mentioned, under the radar. I just want to mention 4 rushing touchdowns by 4 different players in this game for Chantilly, so a nice balanced rushing attack. All right, so that's number 9, West Potomac falling to Chantilly. We're going to go to break real quick and show you the highlights for the Baron Cameron Bowl, Herndon against South Lakes. The Baron Cameron Bowl pitting Herndon against South Lakes, one of the greater rivalries in the northern region. But in the last couple of years, Herndon has dominated this rivalry, winning the last 6 years in a row. South Lakes looking to change that as we jump into the highlights. Starting out with a full head of steam as you see Darius Smith, a 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. It's going to take him a while to get there. Trust me, he gets into the end zone. So Smith starting out, it's 6-0 after the kick fails for South Lakes. Immediately on, loses of 6 straight to Herndon, jumping out to that early lead. But Herndon comes right back. Zach Osick with a 15-yard scamper to the end zone. Osick, known for his arm, can also do it with his legs. Gets into the end zone there. Herndon takes the lead. South Lakes, though, comes right back. Actually, they don't. A nice sack by the Herndon defense. And Herndon gets another touchdown, a 2-yard run by Sam Groder. And you can see a strip there for South Lakes. Their defense did come to play despite giving up 29 points in the game. Juwan Jones, Bobby Lewis, all those running backs for South Lakes do a fantastic job. And I mentioned the defense there, and here is a touchdown for Randall Anani, a 5-yard run. Osick using his arm. Interception by South Lakes. Bobby Lewis going to take it back to about the 38-yard. That was Osick making the tackle, by the way. And then another touchdown for South Lakes. Jawan Jones on a 4-yard run. A safety, Austin Moore, makes the safety there. 21-12 at halftime. Darius Smith with that 90-yard kickoff return. A 15-yard run by Osick. 2-yard run by Groder. Juwan Jones with a 4-yard run, and Randall Anani with a 5-yard run. Your score at halftime, 21-12. But South Lakes looking to stay around in this game as you get into the second half scoring. A great run there for Herndon. Nice power game. Both these teams stayed on the ground for the majority of the game. You see Austin Moore with his touchdown. He was the workhorse for the Herndon Hornets in that game. Nice run there for South Lakes. South Lakes trying to come back here as Herndon has the advantage. It's the last play of the game here. Austin Moore making the interception. We have a safety for Moore, a touchdown for Moore, and now an interception to ice the game. Austin Moore with a 93 rushing yards. I mentioned that touchdown, a safety, and an interception. Definitely the star of the game there. A 90 with 48 rushing yards and a touchdown. Darius Smith, the star for South Lakes, a 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, 57 rushing yards and a touchdown. And Bobby Lewis, 73 rushing yards on only 5 carries and a touchdown. Now, after the game, I had a chance to speak with head coach Joe Schaefer and Austin Moore, our player of the game, talking about the 7th consecutive win over South Lakes.
Yeah, we We knew that we were going to have to play really hard to try to keep us our name on that Barron Cameron Bowl. But it was a great game. Both teams fought extremely hard, and sometimes it's tough for a team to lose a game like that. But our kids fought in there, hung in there, and found a way to get it done.
Talk to me about the running game. It's worked well all year for you.
Well, that's what our offense is. It's a running offense. We can throw the football, but our passing game works off the run, and we have 4 or 5 kids that can run the ball really well, and we try to keep it balanced that way, so you can't just pick on one kid. They all contribute. They all do a good job, and I think that's the strength of our offense right now.
Austin, 93 yards, a touchdown, and that interception. Tell me about your game.
Well, coaches told us the whole week we got to take care of the little stuff. And there's a reason that our name's on this bowl the whole time, because we take care of the little stuff. And South Lakes put up a real good fight, and everyone on our teams looks forward to this game every year. We try so hard because this is the game we want to win. This is what matters, and it's a great rivalry. They played really good, and we had the heart to come through at the end.
Talk to me about the running game of this team. It's been fantastic in 3 weeks now.
Yeah, we've put in our wing tee office, and it's been a real success over the couple of years. Our running game is a real majority of the whole entire team. We try to run the best we can, so then that'll open up our passing game. And when the running game works, it's just a big success. And we have great linemen that take care of everything.
Coach, now 3-0. It's a good way to start a season.
Yeah, great way. That's what we had to do, getting ready for Robinson in our first Concord game. We know we have a lot of work to do, and we got to keep getting better. But I think our kids will keep working, and we'll see what happens. But good win for our kids, and now we got a big game. We got to get ready for Robinson, and like I said, I think our kids will work hard, and we'll see what happens.
All right, Herndon head coach Joe Schaefer and player of the game Austin Moore after a victory over South Lakes. So that was Herndon head coach Joe Schaefer and player of the game Austin Moore make that 7 consecutive years that Herndon has beaten South Lakes in the Barron Cameron Bowl. Stay right with us. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, BJ has all the info on Annandale, South County.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report. Great job, Paul, on the Herndon South Lakes game, the Barron Cameron Bowl. Always a good rivalry within the northern region. Now, speaking of rivalries, a new one that could be budding within the Patriot District is between Annandale and South County. Those two programs are coached by two of the biggest name coaches in the area, Dick Adams over at Annandale, and also Pete Bendorf over at South County. Bendorf started that program, did everything, even down to designing the helmets, jerseys, the whole deal. Those are two major football guys, and both of them, no surprise that they have two of the biggest recruits in the area. They went head-to-head Thursday in a game that I had the pleasure of covering. Melvin Robinson, a receiver from Annandale, made the game-winning touchdown catch, a 26-yard jump ball, his only catch of the game. Now, he went up against Simmons, Andre Simmons, who we talked about earlier, committing to Vanderbilt the next day. It was a great shot in the post, if you saw the paper. Both of those two players colliding in midair, going up for the same football. Robinson, 6'3", 200 and some pounds, rips the football away from Simmons. Simmons had actually played it perfectly. He had swatted the ball away twice. However, Robinson, who has a knack for making those kinds of athletic, strong catches, came down with the football. Now, guys, this is a battle within the Patriot District. No one is saying that these two teams are perhaps going to have something to say about a conference championship by the end of the year. However, everybody seems to have said that about Annandale in the last 3 years, and they've always come back to have something to say about that. Is this an early indication of an Annandale team that perhaps doesn't win pretty but still gets the W?
Yeah, so what I've noticed is, speaking of under the radar, Annandale has been extremely now we had South County ranked at number 5 in our rankings. Annandale not ranked in our top 10. Under the radar, definitely. What does the win say?
Well, it says, I think BJ hit the nail on the head. This team has either won outright or had a piece of 3 of the last 4 Patriot District championships, but every year we seem to go in and sleep on them and make excuses why they're not as good as Lake Braddock, West Springfield, South County, you name it. But they've won 3 of the last 5 games, 3 of their 5 all-time meetings with South County. Now, this is one of only 2 games decided by 16 points or less, so it's been kind of a one-sided series. But Annandale still, I think BJ hit the nail on the head. This team contends every year, and we're going to go to the highlights now. BJ narrated perfectly that Melvin Robinson catch. Here's the proof. Tony Hischlin under center. Stacy Anderson goes in motion. Hischlin rolls to his left, and Melvin Robinson this season making more headlines than a corduroy pillow. Juggles it to himself. 26-yard touchdown connection. I know you like that. 7-0 with the made extra point. Made extra point would be big because fourth quarter, Jesse Beal doing the quarterback duty. He calls shoddy, tosses it up. 27-yard connection to Matt. You're so vain. I bet you thought this highlight was about you. 7-6, pending the extra point. And I said pending the extra point because Nick Chung blocked that kick. Swats it away. Annandale maintains a 7-6 lead. Last chance for South County here. They were actually driving, and Beal on the day. 5 of 6 passing, 69 yards, touchdown, and a pick. This was the one of the 6 that wasn't a completion. Nick Chung gets the blocked extra point and the game-sealing interception. Annandale takes it by 1. They improved to 3-0 on the season.
Wow, so Nick Chung, definitely the player of the game there. We see Melvin Robinson gets all the headlines, got that 26-yard touchdown reception, but Nick Chung getting it done.
Absolutely.
All right, so that was Annandale, South County. We're going to jump into 2 more Patriot District teams. One team that we were really high on, one team that no one was talking about, and the score may surprise you.
All right, so a merry-go-round of upsets to start the season, and W.T. Woodson really came out and shocked the world, or our small little northern region football world, if you will, when they beat Lake Braddock by a point. Braddock was a contender for a region title at the preseason, still in the mix. Woodson then comes in with 499-yard passer Connor Riley, a Temple recruit, and they kind of make us rethink the way we think of the northern region. And then they go to Lee. And Lee, 27-7 over the Cavaliers. Connor Riley, a mere 155 yards and 55 rush yards and a touchdown. Now, for him, those Herculean numbers still don't add up to his near 500-yard performance, but still a great day for Connor Riley. Here's the Beasts. Idrius Augustus, 161 yards, 89 and a touchdown run, his longest. 133 rush yards and 2 touchdowns for Jasmine Williams. Guys, these 2 guys in the backfield, along with the quarterback, another threat. These 3 guys, because Augustus came from Paul VI last year, he had rushed for more than 1,000 there. The quarterback at Lee, over 1,000 rushing, and Jasmine Williams, the featured back before Izzy shows up, 1,000 yards. 3 guys in the backfield for 1,000 yards. 1, I want to ask you, is there enough football for the 3 of them? And 2, is Lee legit?
Well, clearly they're learning how to share because they're getting their yardage, they're getting their highlights, as we're going to see. Drizzy and Jasmine, are they going to lead Lee to a district title?
Paul, quite possibly. You need to run the football to win district championships. The defensive line, I think, is going to be the determinant, the X factor. They have 4 juniors on the defensive line. They fared well in their 2 wins, in 2 of the 3 wins. Struggled a little bit against defending Hayfield, gave up 35 points in that game. But BJ asked, is there enough football to go around? I think when all 3 guys went over 100 yards in this game, I think there is. Idris Augustus, 691 all-purpose yards, 8 touchdowns this season through just 3 games. When we take a look at the highlights, first quarter, it's Greg Lopez doing it with his arm, rolls right, and dials up his BFF, Mequan Johnson, for the 8-yard touchdown connection. I know Rob Everett over there is loving having some height at wide receiver. Lee on the board, immediately 6-0, but the next 5 drives went 3 and out. 3 for Woodson, 2 for Lee, but my friend Stuart Scott calls this breaking off something proper. 90-yard touchdown run for Idris Augustus. He goes the distance, and this really opened up the game, and you just see him blowing by everyone. He finished with a $161 on 16 carries on this day. It's his 6th touchdown of the season of 63 yards or more. Fast forward now later in the quarter, next Lee drive. They go up 21-0 before recess on this 2-yard Jasmine Williams touchdown run. Williams on the day, 11 carries, 149 yards. Greg Lopez, we're not going to see him, but rushing 18 for 106. Now, Woodson, it looked like they were going to come back for a little bit. Joseph O'Jay recovered a fumble on the opening kickoff of the 3rd quarter, and Connor Riley, pardon me while I burst into the end zone, 3-yard touchdown run. I had him for 64 rushing yards, but we can go either way with it. Okay? But Lee coming right back. Now, here's a reverse. Watch at the bottom left corner of your screen when Drizzy cuts back. You'll see Jasmine Williams throw a huge block, and that's how I think these guys get along so well. You see him decleat the DB there. That's how they get along so well, because when they don't have the ball, it enables them to go make highlights and show they can do other things. And then 2 plays later, same drive, different quarter, here's Idris Augustus kind of standing in the backfield. He goes up and makes the chip block that springs Jasmine Williams for his 2nd touchdown run. Lee went up 27-7 on this. I had Riley for 166 passing yards in the game, but 62 of those came on the final drive. So they did a great job of keeping him in check, great job of spreading the ball around. Augustus, Williams, Lopez, all over 100 yards. I think this team's a legitimate threat.
Well, when you have kids blocking when they don't have the ball, doing the extra, doing the little things, you're going to have a positive team, and that's what you see from Lee. What I was interested in, Phil, is looking at the numbers, holding Woodson to such a low score. This Woodson team went off against Lake Braddock in their win. What about the Lee defense?
Well, I think the biggest thing for Lee was that 90-yard touchdown run. I know your question was about the defense, but Woodson was running the ball somewhat effectively early on in the game. Their first drive, they actually put up 3 first downs, but Lee gets on the board 7-0. They get a couple 3-and-outs. Augustus's 90-yard touchdown run now puts them down 14-0, and they became a little bit one-dimensional, almost out of necessity. Then next Lee drive, they're down 21-0. Down 21-0 at the half, they came out throwing the ball. Lee's secondary is their defensive strength, and that's why they were able to hold them to such a low number. Getting ahead early, and that's going to be a key for this team. They run the ball so much. Early leads are pivotal for them.
Well, can Lee win the Patriot District? I know one team that has something to say about that, Lake Braddock. They played Westfield, and BJ is going to take you through the score and the stats.
All right, folks, if you're tracking us from home, we still have so much to get to. A top 10 is coming your way, and we know that's why a lot of you are tuning in to see who will be the #1 team. What are the shifts and the moves? Well, this one amongst 2 ranked teams going to have a lot to say about that. Lake Braddock upending Westfield by just a bucket. Osman, Donnie, and Marie Mansoure, is that how you say it there, Phil? Donnie and Marie Osman Mansoure, there you go. 98 rushing yards, 27-yard touchdown run for Mansoure, who's getting some great blocks from Cameron Kolb, a 6'4" Goliath in the middle. Michael Niebrick, a quarterback, also benefiting from Kolb in the middle. 248 yards passing for Niebrick. That is a pedestrian day for him. He's usually over the 300-yard mark. Danny Feniak, the quarterback from Westfield, just near the 200-yard passing mark and 118 yards receiving for Aaron Scoville. Always seems like a new guy over at Westfield is making a name for himself every week. Guys, going to kick it to you. We got a lot left to do, so let's run through Lake Braddock and Westfield. Guys, what'd you see from this game?
Okay, so Phil, here's one stat line that intrigued me. The Westfield offense did not have a touchdown. Mm-hmm. 6 of their points came on an interception return by Harry Van Trees, a 6-yard interception return for a touchdown. Lake Braddock's holding Westfield. When was the last time Westfield didn't have an offensive touchdown?
I have no idea. It's been a while. Lake Braddock, it's kind of, I really don't know what to think about them. Bill Renner wasn't on the sideline in their loss to Woodson, and we mentioned that on the show. He's back in this game, so we're expecting a huge offensive outburst, and I get a text, it's 3-3 at halftime. So their defense really stepped up, and they won them this game after, in all honesty, costing them that 89-yard touchdown run against James Johnson here. Opening field goal for Westfield put them up 3-0 right away, but Lake Braddock coming back, driving. However, Michael Niebrick in this game intercepted 5 times, buying some time here, but writing that check that the pass can cash. This check's bounced by Ryan Sweet. He had 2 first-quarter interceptions, and it's 3-0 to Westfield. Go to the second quarter. Nick Weiler, who the people on Burke Lake Road are very high on this kid. Sophomore kicker, great soccer player. His brother actually plays at UVA. I played with his brother. 3-3 at the break, but here's the defensive touchdown you're talking about. Harry Van Trees, he's tailgate tested, tailgate approved. 6-yard pick 6, put Westfield up 9-3, but Cameron Kolb blocked the extra point, making it a 6-point game. Now, Westfield, time winding down in this game. They're still up 9-3, have a chance to put it away, but Wasim Abbasi with the sack, and Kelly Doe, you want me on that ball, you need me on that ball. Fumble recovery at the Westfield 27-yard line, and very next play, Paul, 27-yard runs are great.
Yeah.
27-yard game-winning touchdown runs with 2:47 left, jackpot. Donnie and Marie Osman Mansoure, game-winning touchdown run with 2:47 left. Braddock goes up 10-9. They go on to win 10-9. They're 2-1 on the season. Westfield 1-2, and they have Lee this week.
Phil, I'm impressed with your highlight reading ability, because that jackpot, that commercial came out a week ago, and then the tailgate test, that's a new commercial as well. Phil is constantly updating his cliches, and I like it, Phil. I enjoy it. So Lake Braddock getting the big win over Westfield. We're going to stay in another Patriot District, Concord District game. T.C. Williams against Oakton. BJ is going to take you through everything.
I also like what you did there, Phil, with the dough and the knead. I'm not sure you guys got the kneading the dough. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, T.C. Williams, the Titans get a Titanic upset. That's the best I can do. Titanic upset over the Cougars of Oakton. This one really has changed the way people are looking at the northern region. However, might not be the score might not tell the story of the game. We're going to have some highlights from that in just a moment, and Phil's going to run us through those. Jimmy Boone, the quarterback from Oakton, completed about 50% of his passes for 89 yards but 2 interceptions. They really like Boone over at Oakton, but he's a junior, got a lot of growing to do. Mike Green, 47 yards rushing, 13 carries, 22-yard touchdown, and Ray Goings goes off for 57 yards on just 3 catches. Now, TC on the flip side, John Bray, 5 for 13, 76 yards, 2 interceptions. You see, getting the trend here, ugly numbers all the way around, but this one, an ugly victory. However, it still counts as a check mark in the win column for the TC Titans. Cello Abe, remember the name. I'm going to kick it to Phil. I want to see what he can do with some Cello Abe.
All right, Phil. So Jimmy Boone, that's what jumps out to me. 2 interceptions and pedestrian numbers at 89 yards, 50% passing. Should we worry about Boone at all?
No, I think the deal in this game, Oakton led for most of the game, so they were running the ball a lot. He did still have 20 pass attempts, but a lot of those came in desperation at the end. And both his interceptions actually came in the last minute 51 seconds. So I wouldn't flip out. Boone is a quality quarterback. We all think he is. But TC Williams gave Oakton a run in this game last year. We picked it up first quarter. It ain't easy being green unless you're Mike Green. 22-yard touchdown run for Mike Green in the first quarter puts Oakton up 6-0. I'm getting some fist pumps in here, so I think that was a good one. Then here, later on in that quarter, Ray Goins gone. 42-yard field goal for him. Oakton leads 9-0. Actually, TC Williams led this game 10-0 last year at the half. They led this game last year 10-0 at the half, but Oakton scored 39 points in the second half. Now here, thinking the game's over, Terrence Smith intercepts. Actually, we're rewinding now. Robert Carter running a naked bootleg 9-yard touchdown run. They're really trying to make it hard on me back there. 9-yard touchdown run for Carter makes it 9-7 at the half. Now, we saw Terrence Smith's interception. We thought that made the game over with, but as BJ mentioned, Cello Abe. I had a guy that worked with me at ESPN named Chalo Malumba. Honestly, they're not related. Maybe I could do CHELO, it's alive. 59-yard fumble return with 1:51 left. Either way, this is your game winner. 15-9, TC Williams goes up after the 2-point conversion. Boone intercepted twice in the last 1:51, including one by Israel Richardson, the chosen one. Gets the interception. TC Williams goes on to win 15-9.
All right, so we had Oakton ranked number 2 last week. We were all really high on Oakton. TC Williams comes in, gets the victory. They have another important opponent next week. We're going to speak in depth on that game, but they're playing Lake Braddock on Saturday. So what about this TC team? It's huge to get a win over Oakton, get all the momentum moving to a very important Patriot District game.
Yeah, if you look at just scoring, this team had Robinson 23-14 at the half. Now, they gave up 22 unanswered second half points. Robinson was really able to just overpower them. But TC's athletes are hard to match. And I think when push came to shove and Oakton really had to stretch out the game, it was a superior athleticism from TC that really allowed them to put the game away, really make some break on some balls, get those interceptions, and keep Oakton within striking distance. And remember, last year, this team did go 3-7, but they blew 5 first-half leads, 5 leads they had at halftime. So this team's really showing, okay, they have some finishing ability. They're 2-1, very quietly 2-1, kind of like Chantilly I mentioned earlier, and they're playing a 2-1 Lake Braddock team that if Braddock loses that game, you can pretty much throw away any hope of Patriot District championships because they'd be now 1-2 in the Patriot District, or actually 0-2 in the Patriot District at that point. So this game is pivotal for both teams in the Patriot District. It's going to be a very interesting Saturday afternoon matchup in Alexandria.
And remember, Oakton, still a very young team, a lot of improvement they're going to be doing, so don't write them off at all. So Oakton, our number 2 team last week, which means our number 1 team, Stonebridge, they had an interesting game against West Springfield. BJ is going to take you through it.
All right, if you're staying tuned for our top 10 rankings, they're coming up in just a moment. We're running you through all the news, notes, highlights, and more highlights from Phil Murphy at digitalsports.com. Some great work tonight by the boys in the reporter's room. Let's jump out for a moment into that Stonebridge West Springfield game. And West Springfield, a heartbreaker by just a field goal, could have tied the game, but the Bulldogs come away with a 36-33 victory. Mickey Thompson, the coach over at Stonebridge, even though he lost just about everything from last year's squad, including all 22 starters. 204 yards rushing for the new guy, Marcus Harris. They just seem to plug into the formula and continue to have success. And I don't care how long you've been at the school of Stonebridge, There will always be a Gouveia there playing football. 109 yards for the newest installment in the long line of Gouveias and a 49-yard touchdown run. Now for West Springfield, the quarterback, Schauder, 232 yards passing. He splits time, and that has been a successful formula for the Spartans, something, guys, that I think could give the rest of the Patriot District some trouble. And don't sleep on JT Biddison. He was a magician with Marshall, and now that he's got a little talent to work with in the Patriot District, do not be surprised if this squad challenges for a Patriot District championship. Guys, what does this loss say about West Springfield? Just a 3-point loss against a Division V state power, but West Springfield has also played perhaps the toughest 3-week start in the Northern region.
Most definitely, their record does not tell the whole story. West Springfield only a 3-point loss to Stonebridge, a team that very rarely loses, one of the powers in this northern region. So I think if I'm West Springfield, I'm upset, but I'm feeling like, okay, we have a good team here. The record does not show what we have.
Yeah, Paul and I agree. And last week, BJ touched on the 2-quarterback system. Last week, it was Matt Prokop that was putting up the beefy numbers. This week, Eric Schauder goes 15 for 20 passing, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that's an advantage of the 2-quarterback system. Sometimes you just have guys that are hot. And actually, Schauder came out, threw a second-quarter interception in this game, and Coach JT Biddison kept him in the game for the next drive, and he led them down, and actually they got some points out of that drive. Here's that aforementioned interception. Scored at this point, 7-all. It's actually the first play of the second quarter. Stonebridge scored on the last play of the first quarter, first play of the ensuing drive, and Shorty you the best. Andre Best, 25-yard interception return for a score, makes it 14-7 to Stonebridge. But one of Dan Collins' 3 rushing touchdowns on the day made it 14-13 at the break. Fast forward now to the third quarter. Score is actually 22. Sorry, we're still in the. This is the third quarter touchdown run from Dan Collins that made it 19-14. Stonebridge led this game, or trailed 26-22 in the fourth quarter. But BJ mentioned Kyle Gouveia. They have a genetic nose for the end zone, and he's got the Gouveia nose, let me tell you. Bounces off a tackle. He's still alive. 49-yard touchdown run, one of the plays of the week in the region, puts Stonebridge up 29-26. Then, Paul, if I told you that Spencer Rosatano would have a 74-yard punt return touchdown, is that something you might be interested in?
Definitely.
Well, hopefully, because he's doing it right here. Rosatano gets to the outside, gets a block on the corner, and boom goes the dynamite. He's gone. 36-26, Spencer Rosatano. I went there. Spencer Rosatano, 74-yard touchdown. West Springfield goes up 10. Eric Schauder led them on a touchdown drive to close it out and give us that final margin. But Paul, West Springfield, toughest schedule in the region. They're 1-2. Fortunately for them, none of those are district losses. So Patriot District title repeat is absolutely still alive. This team, they lost by 1 at Oakton in overtime and a blocked extra point, and they lost by 3 at home to the defending Division V Northern Region champions.
All right, trial by fire. They are battle-tested as they enter their Patriot District schedule. But let's talk about Stonebridge for 1 second. They're about to enter their Liberty District schedule. Mm-hmm. They don't lose in the Liberty District. So do you see an undefeated season for Stonebridge going up? Because the tough part is they do have Madison, which plays them tough, but the tough part is almost over.
Well, yeah, they survived the first 3 weeks. They beat Westfield big. They went out and beat Heritage team on the road 25-14, and then they beat West Springfield on the road 36-33 was the final score. So this team 28-0, all-time in the Liberty District, never lost the Liberty game. I think the game everyone has circled on their schedule is Week 7 against Madison at home. And again, if they can get an early lead in that game, Madison's a team you have to score early on them because they are great at running out the clock. I mean, they ran out 6 straight minutes on both their scoring drives in their win over Langley, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But yeah, early score there. They may be looking at an undefeated season. They may be looking at a top seed in Division V, going up against Leaf for that. Paul, this team got through the toughest part of the schedule, 3-0, unscathed.
So Stonebridge, the top team last week in our top 10 rankings, see where they are this week in just a few moments. But we're going to take a break from football. We're going to talk a little field hockey. You know Monica Moore loves talking volleyball. With her gone, I'm going to talk a little field hockey. BJ's going to set everything up.
All right, guys, I know you're hanging tough with us. We are having a blast here in studio. There was a boom goes the dynamite reference. It happened live on your TV. Now, in just a moment, we're going to get to those coveted rankings, the ones you tune in for every week here on the Fairfax Sports Report. But now, let's set up Paul Frummel to talk about these Westfield Bulldogs under Coach Terry Toll, a successful successful field hockey program. You look inside the numbers here, 9-1 overall and 1-0 in the Concord. In their 10th year after losing 8 seniors from a AAA state semifinal squad, Paul, I was at that game that they lost in the state tournament, raining buckets, by the way. I was standing under a tent and just being showered. But I digress, sir. Will they continue to shower the rest of the Northern region with victories?
Well, they lose so many seniors, as BJ just mentioned. But this is a team that it seems like to me just kept on reloading. I started covering the Northern region in 1996, 2006. I'm sorry, I'm not that old. But when I came in, Westfield was a power. And as I cover them, there continue to be a power, be fighting for a Concord District title, be fighting for a Northern Region title. I just assumed they'd always been a power. Westfield, the fall programs this year, celebrating their 10th year, the volleyball team, the football team, the field hockey team, celebrating their 10th year. The school opened in 2000. I just figured it took, a couple years, and then they clicked. That Chantilly area has such dominating players, great youth programs. I figured, okay, so they've been good for forever. Not the case. They struggled through the first 6 years of their existence when I talked to head coach Terry Toll, and she mentioned that it took a while to build that program, and now they're reaping that success. They have, as we just mentioned, looking over at the last couple of years, they won a Northern Region Championship in 2006. 2007, bit of a down year for them, 8-1, a 500 record, but last year, 20-5, a Concord District title. Northern Region runner-up, AAA state semifinals, and losing those 8 seniors, come back 9 seniors on this team. They are 9-1 right now. So I think the moral of the story here is it takes a while to build a program, but once you get it and you have a great coach like head coach Terry Toll, great youth programs in that Chantilly area, you're going to be a dominant force, and that's what we're seeing from Westfield, Phil.
Yeah, Paul, and like you mentioned, Terry Toll, great coach, and she actually told me in the offseason that after that 2006 regional championship, going 8-1 in 2007, she's using that as the example for this year, because last year, 20-5, they went down to the beach, made it through the rain. I was there too with BJ. It was a torrential downpour. Still won those games, still won the first game there, got bounced in the state semifinals, and then this year they really wanted to come back. Coach Terry Toll is one of my favorite coaches in the Northern Region, and not just because she hooks me up with free Chick-fil-A during football games, but one of the best field hockey coaches around, and I think this team's focused. They're using that 2007 season as a lesson.
Phil, journalism ethics, Phil. Journalism, you cannot accept those Chick-fil-A's.
Can't turn down free food.
All right, so BJ's, we saw our top 10 football. BJ's going to take us through the rest of the scoreboard, kick it back to us, and we're going to have our last parting shots of week 3 of football.
I think you'd be shocked to know that they do, in fact, pay me in Chick-fil-A. They just come with a big bag and they hand it to me on my doorstep. Okay, let's get into the scores from the rest of this week. Hang with us in just a moment here on the Fairfax Sports Report. We're going to run you through our newest top 10 as we reveal it here for the first time this week. Now, Centerville with a 1-point victory over the Patriots of Yorktown. Jeb Stewart looking for a victory but fell just short of Fairfax, so give Fairfax a victory this week. That is a fist pump for Paul Frummel, a former lineman over at Fairfax High School. Falls Church blows Jefferson away 42-0. And McLean, so hungry to make up for its 0-10 year last year, does it with a 28-8 victory over Wakefield. So they are 2-1. Don't look now. The Highlanders showing some promise under Coach Patrick. Edison, 35-0 over Mount Vernon, rebounding after their Week 1 stunning upset to West Springfield, which doesn't look so stunning anymore. Madison and Langley, it is the Warhawks of Madison with a 14-0 victory. And as Philip Murphy will tell you soon, Hayfield has scored 35 points in each of their games. That is an offense that really goes, as does Ray Sean Riggins. All right, guys, tell me a little bit about what you think of these final scores from the rest of the week and what they mean to the rest of the region.
I was excited that Phil Murphy decided to bring one more highlight package from his digitalsports.com headquarters. I'm excited to say that's Fairfax Jeb Stewart, like BJ mentioned, a 2001 graduate of Fairfax High School. I'm always excited for Fairfax to get a win. So, Phil, what did you see from that game?
Well, I saw Fairfax dominating running game. Anton Burns was not in the lineup. They substitute Jack Carter in the game. He would play very prominently into the result. Fairfax outgained Stewart in this one 522-141, but as you saw, it was only a 5-point game. Why? -6 turnover margin. 10 points for Stewart came off those turnovers. including this from Jason, thank God it's Friday. It calls Shoddy and goes upstairs to Chris Kirby, and Paul, that's G. That is so G. 25-yard touchdown connection. Stewart actually at this point had the lead, but Fairfax coming back, ball on the 45-yard line. Jack Beckert, before this game, only completed one of his 4 completions on the season for longer than 6 yards, had 2 touchdown passes, went 7 for 10 passing, 152 yards, and in this game, Alex Young, 5 receptions, $135, those 2 scores. That made it 21-10, but Stewart coming back with Chris Ventura, Mighty Mouse. 90-yard kickoff return for him. He can put up his hand and wave goodbye. 21-17 at this juncture after Ventura's kickoff return. Great balance for him there on the far sideline. Move now to the fourth quarter, 5:24 to go. Jason Friday in shotgun. Ventura motions away from the formation, and Friday exploits the fact that the linebacker vacated. 8-yard touchdown run made it 23-21. Stewart has the lead, but 14-play, 84-yard drive, eating up 4.5 minutes of clock for Fairfax. Here's Captain Jack Carter. Paul, he's got a little captain in him. 8-yard touchdown run with 45 seconds left. Fairfax hangs on to win 28-23. Again, 522 yards of offense, and they need a touchdown in the last 45 seconds. This team, they really needed that win. They pushed Robinson to the brink last week, gave up 2 touchdowns in the last 3.5 minutes. Cost them, they lost by 20. It's a little bit of a misleading score in that game. Get the 5-point win here, despite being -6 in the turnover margin.
I believe Fairfax will win at least 3 games this year. I believe South Lakes will win at least 5 games this year. Liberty District is getting more parity, and I like to see that from my Liberty District. Okay, that closes the books on Week 3. BJ is going to take us through all the district standings, and then we're going to announce our top 10.
Are you hanging with us? Are you so hungry for your top 10? We're getting to it. We're getting there. Relax, grab a Chick-fil-A, and just hang out with us. Let's go through these district standings. Let's post the first one. I'm going to ask you guys to chime in here along with me because you're just so knowledgeable and funny. Herndon, 3-0. If you had showed me these district standings from the start of the year, I would have told you to flip-flop them, put Westfield, Chantilly, and Oakton up at the top. But that's what we're looking at because that's why they play the games. Thank you, Herndon 3-0, Robinson at 3-0, and the Cougars of Oakton are sharing a 2-1 record with Chantilly. Westfield at 1-2, as well as Centerville. Guys, what's the surprise there?
Herndon and Robinson, they play each other this week, both 3-0. You mentioned it, those teams we did not expect to be at the top of the pile, especially Herndon.
All right, giving us some insight, Phil, into perhaps what could be our game of the week, if you will. Herndon and Robinson, what do you see there?
Well, I think Herndon needs to do a better job stopping the run. We saw they struggled with South Lake's trio, now quartet of running backs, because since Bobby Lewis has gotten in the mix, Robinson runs a very similar style, except they're a little bit more bruising. They do a little bit more between the tackles, so they won't be punished as much if they miss their interior tackles, but their defensive line, which Coach Schaefer told me in the preseason was his biggest question mark, is really going to step up in this game. Offense has been great for Herndon. Let's see if they can stop Robinson.
All right, guys, let's run through the rest of these standings real quick. We got a lot left to do. National District, Rayshawn Riggins and the Hayfield Hawks making that change to a new district, and it seems to work for them. They are at 2-1 alongside of Edison. That could be your matchup for National District champions. Yorktown, Stewart, Falls Church, and Wakefield down at the bottom, along with Mount Vernon and Washington and Lee, still looking for their first victory of the year. Let's jump right into that Liberty District. Madison, South Lakes, you say? Stonebridge at 3-0, up at the top. McLean at 2-1. Fairfax at 1-2, and your winless squads coming in down at the bottom. Marshall, Langley, and Jefferson. Really going to watch that Madison and Stonebridge matchup. Patriot District, this is where all the fun is this year. Woodson coming away from that Liberty and into the Patriot and wreaking havoc. Lee up at the top alongside of Annandale, both at 3-0 and 1-0 in the district. W.T. Woodson already with a 1-1 record in the district with a split between Lake Braddock and Lee respectively. W.T. Woodson at 2-1, certainly a team to watch. The Titans of TC at 2-1 with a huge upset, the signature upset of the year. West Springfield at 1-2, but don't be shocked if they turn it around and win the Patriot District. West Potomac, South County, and Lake Braddock down at the bottom of the district standings. Let's go right into our coveted top 10. There it is. You've been waiting so patiently. Stonebridge at number 1, and Robinson. Coach Mark Bendorf, the one-time National High School Coach of the Year, takes his Robinson Rams right up to the top from the 10th spot. Lee, a team that many think could win a region championship for the first time ever, Up in third, Lake Braddock and Annandale and Westfield now tied for fifth. Herndon and Oakton down near the bottom in South County, and W.T. Woodson rounding them out in the 9th spot. And our Week 3 pick'em, yeah, we do this every single week. We tend to pick games here because we think we're smart, and then we find out just how smart we're not. Except for me this week, guys. 3 of my 5 were wins. Lake Braddock taking the win over Westfield, Chantilly over West Potomac, Stonebridge over West Springfield, Annandale over South County, and you see there on your screen, Lee over Woodson. Okay, Phil Murphy, 2 of 5. 3 of 5. Paul, 2 of 5. BJ, 3 of 5. And Monica has had better weeks, but she is vacationing right now, so she could not care about her 1-point week. Let's go to our standings, or rather our week. Let's just go to the next one, and I'll just learn along the way, whatever it might be, which would be our Week 4 pick'em. Wouldn't that make sense to go from 3 to 4? Okay, here's what we're doing this week, guys. I am just behind Paul with 7 points. It's a tight race. You see, though, we're picking some new games. Who will it be, guys? We're looking at our picks here. I've got Woodson when everyone else has Chantilly. I've got Oakton, as does Phil. We are having some success, but Paul, who's leading everyone, has Annandale, Lee, and Robinson. Guys, real quick, any upsets that you're picking this week and why?
I'm still sticking with the theory that the Patriot beats the Concord right now, except for that Chantilly-Woodson game. I'm high on Chantilly after what they did last week, but I'm taking Annandale. I'm taking Robert E. Lee. I like what they're doing right now. I'm leading, so I'm probably going to be right.
2 games I want to touch on. First, Lee-Westfield. I don't think there's a scenario where Westfield goes 1-3. Lee, I was surprised I'm the only one that went with Westfield here, but I do understand why everyone is so high on Lee. They are extremely talented, but Westfield, their 2 losses are at Stonebridge by 3 and at Lake Braddock by 1.
But they didn't score an offensive touchdown last week. I mean, that's something. Things happen with Westfield now, and that really worries me.
Yeah, the defensive line for Lee is a little bit smaller than that they're going to face with that they faced with Lake Braddock. So I think they're going to have a little bit more success between the tackles, although I think they'll have just as much trouble in the passing games because Lee's secondary is legit. The second game I want to touch on, Lake Braddock, T.C. Williams. I know we all went with Lake Braddock in this game. In this series, the road team has won the last 8 games, including T.C. Williams upsetting Lake Braddock a year ago in Burke. So by that trend, Lake Braddock, safe bet. Going for number 9 in a row, road team keeping that string of success.
Robinson versus Herndon, 3-0 teams in the Concord District. We all took Robinson. It should be noted that Monica did not pick this week. We gave her the consensus pick out of the 3 of us for each week, and she needs a little help with lagging behind there with 5 correct picks. So hopefully she'll get some good correct answers this week. But we all taking Robinson, and then all taking Lake Braddock as well. What I'm interested in, BJ, is picking Woodson over Chantilly. I'm interested in that.
All right, I am from also the school of thought that the Patriot should be beating the Concord this year. I believe, as I wrote in the Post this week, that the balance of power has shifted to the Patriot district. Phil asked about the Lee-Westfield game. I was at the West Potomac game against Westfield. I saw a Westfield team that will be good by the end of the year. I'm just not sure they're ready to take that step forward just yet. This is a team that always does get better by the end of the year. I wouldn't think they'd start 1-3 either. I just think it's not an indictment of Westfield. I think it's really a compliment of Lee and just how good they are. West Potomac had a lot of chances against Westfield. They fumbled the ball a lot, interceptions and more plagued that squad. I think Lee will have some issues, but I think they're just too powerful for Westfield to stop right now. If they were playing this game in the second half of the season, I might have a different opinion. All right, guys, just a little bit of time left on the clock, so let's jump into the cross country. Paul Frummelt, our cross country expert. A lot of fun here for our cross country runners.
Brentsville Relays are a great time. I went last year under the lights. They set up portable light stands. It's a fantastic time. Teams come from all over the country. Just looking at the quick graphics there for the boys team, West Potomac, the top Northern Region team, at 5th. Lake Braddock and South County also placing in the top 10. Moving on to the girls' side, you see that Lake Braddock, the top Northern Region team, West Potomac right behind them in the top 10. So, good motivation for West Potomac. Both teams finished in the top 10 at the Brentsville Relays. And BJ, wow, we got through it. Right back to you.
Heck of a show, guys. Great work. Want to thank my boys Phil Murphy of digitalsports.com and Paul Frummel of the Times Community Papers. All right. Also want to thank the folks that make this show possible. And, of course, we're talking about our wonderful teammates at CCI Screen Printing for all your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. You can also see them on the web. You can see fatboyphotos.com on the web as well. Our staff photographer, Craig Sturbutzel, does a great job. PressBoxVideo.com. News, stats, highlights. You can get games and more. You can also catch us on the web at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com, video and more. Facebook us. We promise we'll be your friend. And contact us at news@fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Well, another show in the books, a great show at that. Come on back next week for more news, notes, stats, and highlights with me, the boys, and Monica Moore will be back to guide you through another great show. I'm BJ Kubarulis for the whole cast and crew saying so long from the Fairfax Sports Report.